Hey, it's Sick Boy from the Gaming Antics Collective, and Capcom are really feeling the pointy stick put at them by the consumers today. They've published some figures, their predicted sales for the end of the year, their profits to date, profits from outside of the actual console and PC gaming market, outside the AAA model, seem to have some healthy profits. However, they released two big AAA games that they expected to be massive, massive sales. Okay, those being Resident Evil 6 and DmC. Originally, Resident Evil 6 was pushed for 7 million sales and DmC for 5 million. Those are their original estimates. Okay, they've just after seeing the sales, after seeing the customer feedback, after seeing how things have gone, they've readjusted that and then think by the financial year end that for Resident Evil 6 they're only going to sell 5 million copies, and for DmC only 1.2 million copies. You need to really see the actual genuine impact that's what's happened when consumers get really pissed off with companies. Okay, taking DmC as an example, that's the biggest drop. That's a 76% decrease in projected revenue. Now that's not loss so much as that money hasn't disappeared from their company, but that's what they estimated they were going to earn. That works out as an extra $228 million they were expecting to earn from Devil May Cry. And they're not going to make that money. That money is lost to them. They're not going to earn that money. Equally, Resident Evil 6, they've lost $120 million in projected revenue. This is what happens when consumers don't like the product. Now they can make all the excuses they like. They can make excuses that Resident Evil 6, there was just too many Resident Evil games brought out. That what with Revelations and Mercenaries and Raccoon City, which, Christ, what a polished turd that was. Well, it was pretty much an unpolished turd. It was just a turd. That they were bored. People are bored of. There are too much Resident Evil games. Bullshit. Resident Evil 5 came out in 2009. People have been gagging for a decent, canonical, major Resident Evil game. Ideally they want to go back to the original series, but failing that, a good quality game on par with 4 would make people happy. 5 was a step in the wrong direction and 6 was a massive leap in the wrong direction. I was chatting to someone on a comment feed earlier today from my previous video, and something I worked out actually talking about Wesker's son in Resident Evil 6, it turns out he actually has to be 14 years old. Now I haven't played through the entire game, so whether they actually address that, but bear in mind that he's got superpowers based on Wesker, okay, from his blood. Wesker gets superpowers in 1998, July 1998, it's a fixed point in the canon. Resident Evil 6 is set present day. They even say that his dad died 3 years ago in 2009. It makes him at most 14 years old. This is the sort of sloppy shit that people don't like. Okay, it's not that difficult. If your whole concept is flawed from basis, you've got that, oh well, he's got sort of some of the powers of Wesker. Okay, how? Oh well, he was, well, you can't. It's like, make him some kind of experiment, that you experimented him in the womb or something. Not he's inherited Wesker's superpowers, because that makes no fucking sense, unless he grew twice as long. Unless he grew twice as fast, and he's just 14. It makes Sherry Birkin like 12 years older than him. It's ridiculous. You can't even do your own maths. Really. I mean, that's why your game has been canned. That, and it was a third-person shooter mostly. Even the Leon campaign, which was the most like Resident Evil, was not that great. You know, and anyone who bashes both DmC and RE6 as not fine games, they're fine. They're fine games. They're not. Neither of them are excellent, in my estimation. They're both. None of them are broken. None of them are so terrible you couldn't possibly get any enjoyment out of them. But what they are is not what the consumer wants. You offered the consumer something other than what they wanted. You treated them like dogs, and they've turned around and bit you in the arse, and cost you over $350 million in projected revenue. Because you think you're going to sell like Call of Duty. You think you're going to be able to make $250 million in sales. And guess what? You can't. Not with your current catalogue. Not with what you're bringing out. Seriously. you're nowhere near. You're nowhere near getting that revenue off a single AAA title. The quality's not there, and the consumers have shown you it's not there. People aren't willing to pay for your shit. Now you know. Now you have to suck it up, and you have to go to your shareholders and explain to them where that massive profit has gone. They're going to want to know. And you're going to make some bullshit excuse. You've already made some bullshit excuses that there's too many Resident Evil games out there, which is shit. You know full well. If you released 4 major Resident Evil games this year, maybe, but you released a spin-off and a couple of DS titles over the last year or so, you haven't saturated the market. What absolute shit. You put your money where your mouth is. You thought you could bash your customers and bully them into buying your product. Do you know what? I'll put it out there. DmC has been such a financial failure from that perspective. Even if you consider a revision from the 2 to the 1.2 million, because they did revise down to 2 million a while ago, but even so, that's a 40% loss in revenue. Originally, they said 5 million sales. That's what they need. You've not come close. Not come close. And maybe, just maybe, if Ninja Theory hadn't have run their mouth and offended a proportion of the consumers out there, and you hadn't have been so damn arrogant about the whole thing, maybe you'd have sold a few more million units. I know I would have bought it. Even though the game was lacking some technical polish, I would have bought that game if you hadn't acted like dicks about it. I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as some of the previous games, but I still would have bought it. I managed to get enjoyment out of Hitman Absolution. Despite its flaws, despite it not being as good as the previous issues of the series in my estimation, I still got some enjoyment out of it. But you blew that opportunity. And you didn't just blow it with me. I'm not just the only person saying this. You blew it with loads of people. There are people making videos on YouTube, writing blogs about it, making articles, and not one of them is saying, I'm not buying it. I didn't buy Devil May Cry because of the hair. You blew it. You blew it. You could have made way more money out of this, and you absolutely screwed the pooch. And I, for one, am absolutely fucking delighted. Happy day, Capcom. You just got slapped in the fucking face. We slapped you in the face a while ago, and you're just starting to properly realise it. So, as I said in my previous video, don't give me any of that. We might return back to proper survival horror if you buy Revelations on the 360 or the PS2 or the PS3. No. You want to reboot the franchise? Properly reboot the franchise. Do not palm off to some developer who's got experience in good motion capture and level design and that's about it. It's not going to work. Build it from the ground up. Put money into it. Invest it. Invite your customers to not judge the game on its merits. Don't tell them that it's the second coming and that if you don't like it there's something wrong with you and you're just whinging and hating on it. Be humble, be respectful, and you know what? You'll find all of a sudden, around the world, hundreds of thousands or millions of people will vote with their wallets if you treat them with respect and create a decent enough product. You've only got yourself to blame, Capcom. Anyway, on a second bit of news I wanted to cover today, Dead Space 3, the demo has been out now for public release. They've collated the amount of downloads globally, and they are seemingly very excited that they've had 2 million downloads. Okay, that does sound like a lot, I'll grant you, but EA have made it explicitly clear that they need 5 million in sales for this game. 5 million in sales. You've only managed 2 million from a free demo. Now granted, some people who play the demo aren't going to buy the game, and some people who haven't downloaded the demo are going to pay the game. But even if you consider a 1-to-1 ratio of downloads to purchases, you're still nowhere near you're not even halfway to your target. You are up for a... So seriously, even with the demo, which has no microtransactions, I genuinely think the reason that those demo times are so down... I downloaded the Devil May Cry demo, going back to the Capcom thing, gave it a go. Thought, is it so good that it's worth me considering offended as I am quite offended by them as developers? Is it worth me taking it on the cheek and paying for it? And I thought, no, fuck them. It's nowhere near good enough for me to put my pride on the line and say, no, I'm going to go back on my own personal word and support the product. And I feel the same way with Dead Space 3. In fact, more strongly, because that microtransactions thing, that's not even disrespecting your customers. That is stealing from them. I've said it before, it's damn near the most ridiculous model I've ever heard. You find a way to take a free product that then charges people for how long they use it. So you've got to make the game attractive and then offer incentives to pay to keep the longevity of the game going. And that works absolutely fine. And what do? You found that model and decided, how can we make that model? And then charge a fortune for it. There's a reason you've only got 2 million downloads. You try and pretend like it's a lot, but 2 million downloads? Really? For a demo of one of the most hotly anticipated games? Up until that microtransactions bullshit, I didn't know a single person who wasn't really interested in that game. Well, people who were interested in horror or those kind of games. Now, after watching the playthrough of The Last of Us, I don't even feel like I've got anything to lose. They've got crafting in that game. If you've got the PS3, The Last of Us looks amazing. If you haven't seen it, seriously. They've taken a whole new look on the whole zombie thing. If you haven't seen the videos, they've only been posted up, I think, today. But they've got these infected people, they're fungal infections, and there's 3 different stages of them. And the most extreme ones are completely blind, have fungus growing out of all their orifices in their heads, just this giant manky thing. And they communicate using clicks for radar, which was in the news a year or so ago. That guy who used to navigate around, the blind guy, navigated around using clicks. And they've taken that idea and made it for these enemies in the dark sections of the game. Looks genuinely like a terrifying experience. Dead Space can fuck right off. That looks way better to me. And given the microtransaction situation as well, you can go fuck yourself. Even The Last of Us aside, because that's only out in a couple of months. A lot of people are just turning away from your product over this. I mean, you've been shit for a while, and people have taken it. A lot of people who don't like EA still bought Mass Effect 3. Then look what happened. I'm going to call it. I'm going to put myself up on the line here, and I'll apologise if I'm wrong, but I doubt Dead Space 3 will see week 1 sales of over 2 million. Putting it out there. And that might sound like a big deal when you think 5 million's projected sales, but you know what? The majority of the numbers of sales figures are in the first week. And then it's dribs and drabs. Maybe, at most, you match your first week sales over the rest of the lifespan of the game. And even then, they're going to be 1 million units shy. They're not going to hit their target. They're going to get pissed off, and they're going to try something. They're either going to learn their lesson, or they're going to try something even worse. They're going to turn around and say that to save, you need to microtransactions to save or something. Mark my words, their marketing department's pure bloody evil. There's nothing they won't stoop to. So, anyway, just a couple of bits of news I really wanted to get out there. Catch you guys later.